My name is Jacqueline Dreer, and I'm going to talk about a superstition that all actors are familiar with, the curse of Macbeth. I'm not involved in the arts, but even I've heard of the curse. I thought this topic seemed pretty interesting to research because it helped me understand what I thought was just some weird thing that drama kids talked about, or didn't talk about. Modern theater stems from a rich and vibrant history spanning hundreds of centuries. As a matter of course, this has resulted in a vast number of traditions and superstitions associated with the arts. Some of these include actors not wearing the color blue unless it's paired with silver, keeping the theater closed one night out of the week to give ghosts the freedom to roam the stage, and telling actors to break a leg instead of wishing them luck before a performance. Perhaps the most infamous and well-known superstition of all, though, is that of the Curse of Macbeth. Often referred to as the Scottish play, Macbeth was written by famous playwright William Shakespeare during the 17th century. The superstitions surrounding this play are twofold. The first part of the superstition dictates that speaking the name of the play or quoting lines from it inside the theater, aside from rehearsals and the live performance, brings about bad luck. The second part of the superstition runs even deeper, implying that the play itself is cursed. William Shakespeare is regarded as the greatest playwright of the English language. In the early 1600s, Shakespeare wrote Macbeth to entertain King James I of England, formerly King James VI of Scotland. Shakespeare often borrowed stories from many sources, but reworked them until they became distinctly his own, I learned in Brockett's book. Using Raphael Holinshed's The History of Scotland as a basis for his play, Shakespeare used certain facts to make his play more realistic. Ben Jonson wrote that all in all, the confusing mix of fact and fiction which runs through the play is bewildering. Altering other facts slightly, Shakespeare wrote his play with witches that could predict the future, Macbeth having no claim to the throne, and Banquo being a man of reason who did not assist Macbeth with killing the king. These alterations were written to help Shakespeare gain favor with King James I, who was interested in witchcraft and was a descendant of the real-life Banquo, who actually helped Macbeth kill King Duncan. Shakespeare's play has been produced countless times in the 400 years since it was written. While many people are hesitant to participate in or even attend the production, it remains one of Shakespeare's most popular plays to date. The superstition follows that if a person says Macbeth in the theater, that person will be cursed and their life and the success of the play may be put in jeopardy. Instead of saying Macbeth, people have taken to calling the play the Scottish play, that play, the Unmentionable, and the Bard's play. Not only the name of the play is considered bad luck if spoken in the theater. If a person quotes lines inside a theater while not rehearsing or actually performing the play, then that person faces potential harm or death. One method of dispelling the curse involves immediately exiting the theater, spinning around 3 times, and spitting over the left shoulder and saying the most profane word one can think of, then waiting to be invited back into the theater. Other variations of dispelling the curse include walking around the outside of the theater 3 times before spitting and cursing, saying multiple profane words in a row, proclaiming thrice around the circle bound, evil sink into the ground, quoting from Hamlet, angels and ministers of grace defend us, and a handful of other similar methods. In order to ward off any bad luck, these rituals must be performed immediately after the name or lines are uttered. Despite the play's age, it is still very well known, as are the superstitions surrounding it. There are several theories as to the origins and results of the curse. One of the most common beliefs is that the events from the premiere of the play in Shakespeare's time were the start of the effects of the curse. It is said that Shakespeare used actual incantations of black magic in the Weird Sisters lines, angering witches and causing them to curse all those who are involved in the production and the play itself. It has been said that on opening night, August 7th of 1606, the young actor Henry Berridge, who was supposed to play Lady Macbeth, suddenly became sick and passed away backstage before the opening of the show. Some sources say that Shakespeare himself had to take over playing the role of Lady Macbeth. There are countless other accidents that people relate to the play. In 1937, the curse seemed to really affect the production at the Old Vic. The director and the actress playing Lady Macbeth were in a car accident and were seriously injured. Laurence Olivier happened to lose his voice, and a stage light almost fell on him during rehearsal. Lillian Bayliss, who was the founder of the Old Vic, died on opening night when she had a heart attack. A piece of Olivier's sword broke off during a fight scene, flying into the audience and striking a patron, who later died of a heart attack. That was all in just one production. In 1942, one of the three witches got sick and then died of a heart attack before the show opened. Also, the actor playing King Duncan died of angina, and during the production, another witch was dancing on stage and suddenly collapsed on stage and died. In addition to all of that happening in one production, the set designer committed suicide. 5 years later, Harold Norman was fatally stabbed during the play after he had quoted from Macbeth in his dressing room before the show that night. Many incidents happened in 1970 at the Liverpool Repertory Theatre when the man playing Macbeth was struck in the eye with one of the swords. The actress playing Lady Macbeth contracted the flu, and others were quickly affected by the sickness. Not even American presidents are exempt from this curse. Abraham Lincoln, a regular theater patron, recited a speech from Macbeth to a group of his friends prior to his assassination. Many have explained that these accidents happened because of William Shakespeare's use of real black magic incantations. Some have written that there were actual witches in the original production of the play casting real curses on the play. Those witches were upset that Shakespeare used the real sacred rituals of their covens. King James I was knowledgeable about witchcraft and even wrote a book on it, Daemonology. This book, written in 1597, advised the English to not get involved in witchcraft. King James I was paranoid that witches were attempting to murder him by causing storms while he was out at sea and burning figures that represented him. Because it was public knowledge that King James started the widespread persecution of all witches, Shakespeare decided to include witches into the play, in a manner meant to discourage the use of witchcraft. King James I believed that witches had great power, and that they could, as he stated in his book, raise storms and tempests in the air, wither upon sand or sea. Those who do not believe in the curse still respect the actors who are superstitious. Although there seems to be an unfortunately large number of accidents attributed to the performance of the play, there seems to also be an explanation as well. Macbeth was and is considered to be a guaranteed hit by many theaters. Very often, a theater that was underperforming and not drawing audiences with its current headliner would turn to Macbeth to fill seats and turn a profit. Being underprepared and not having enough money to afford sturdy props and equipment often led to a higher propensity for accidents. In addition, many times theaters were beyond saving and were forced to close anyways. Many theater closures ended up being attributed to the run of Macbeth and its curse. Many reasons have been brought up to prove that the name of the play is not cursed, but thespians will still not take any chances. One of these reasons is that Macbeth, while short, is an extremely physical production with strenuous activities such as sword fighting, primarily performed in dim lighting. The play is often physically and emotionally exhausting for the actors. Combining that with a large amount of tricky and dangerous choreography and the previous mentioned lack of funds for safe sets and equipment, it is the perfect formula for accidents. This can explain many of the issues with sets falling and breaking, actors being injured during rehearsal and production, and even some of the more obscure off-site accidents and suicides. Even if stage weapons and props are used, Brian Dunning said that such weapons are still dangerous, just not very sharp, and you're bound to have statistically more injuries in any play that has weapon fights than in plays that don't. It has been observed that the theaters that produce Macbeth shut down after the play has been shown. Historically, Hamlet is actually said to have more production-related deaths attributed to it than Macbeth does, though there is no reliable way to accurately measure that statistic. The curse may not exist, but that does not mean that it is not something owners of theaters and actors will let go. In the world of theater, tradition and customs are an important part of the unique culture. These traditions have shaped over time and history, and in turn have shaped how theaters are run and how actors interact with one another and the audience. Tradition comes about because someone decided that the one thing that they did affected the production they were involved with. Modern theater has been shaped by the events of the past, and it is important that we remember them. Regardless of their origin or logic, they are part of what makes the theater magical.